As a result of several threats, wouldn't a leader feel compelled to fulfill the demands of Western powers? Even assassinations and coup attempts against these leaders have been tried by Western countries. Traore is on a similar route to leaders like Thomas Sankara, who have been terminated for their choices. Is he not terrified then? Ibrahim Traore, the youthful president of Burkina Faso, declares that he has no fear of dying. Traore recently said that he doesn't fear dying. External powers were outraged by this comment and expected him to retract it. Is he the one who is afraid? Or is now the moment to dread for the West? Whom is he announcing his fearlessness to? Let's investigate. Imagine a leader who, in the face of imperial forces that have profited from fear and subordination, states frankly, "I'm not scared to die." This is not a Hollywood film script. Under Ibrahim Traore's direction, Burkina Faso is witnessing this reality. With his bold style of leadership, Ibrahim Traore, the youthful president of Burkina Faso, is creating waves in a world where Western domination has dominated world politics for generations. He declared his fearlessness in the face of death in a forceful speech, opposing African growth, cowardice, treachery, and incompetence, as well as the West's long-standing intimidation tactics. Not only are Traore's remarks a defiance of the status quo, but they also represent a vision for a new Africa, one that rejects colonial domination in favor of true sovereignty. The message of Traore is one of urgency, a cry for a new breed of African leaders. We must examine his bold claim in order to appreciate the seriousness of his remarks. Why would a youthful African leader publicly state that he had no fear of dying? What message is Traore conveying to his opponents as well as to his allies? Traore's admission that he has no fear of dying is much more than a showy assertion of self-confidence. It is an appeal for African unity, as well as a calculated challenge to Western hegemony. In the past, as a fundamental tactic of control, the West has used terror to maintain power over African states through coups, assassinations, and economic sanctions. Retaliation against leaders who dared to envision an Africa free from Western exploitation, such as Muammar Gaddafi, Thomas Sankara, and Patrice Lumumba, was quick and ruthless. By announcing his lack of fear, Traore is weakening one of the most potent instruments of seduction used by the West and rejecting its legacy of terror. This claim demonstrates a deep psychological insight. Traore is expressing that he will not back down from the fear of dying that has been employed to keep things as they are. His remarks strike a deep chord throughout the continent, serving as a sobering reminder that for African leaders to truly attain freedom, they must be prepared to give up everything. The African people can use this proclamation as a rallying cry. Speaking not only for himself, Traore is speaking for all Africans who have been suppressed, oppressed, and subjected to colonial and neo-colonial powers. He is urging a change in perspective from one of fear and surrender to one of bravery and defiance. Essentially, Traore is advocating for the spirit of resistance to rule Africa instead of the ghost of fear. Traore's position also sends a message to those who oppose African progress from inside. Those who, frequently for personal benefit, have participated in the exploitation of their own nations. Traore is also challenging those who have sold their souls to outside powers to hold onto their positions of privilege by declaring that he is not frightened to die. By announcing that there is a new breed of leadership in town, one that cannot be bought or intimidated, he is laying down the gauntlet to these actors. With his audacious proclamation, Traore ushers in a new era of daring, brave leadership. Uncompromising and blatantly African. However, his vision goes beyond than that. In addition, he has outlined a plan for the continent's renaissance that centers on the necessity of eradicating three particular vices: cowardice, treachery, and ineptitude. Why does Traore think that the three things that Africa needs to eradicate in order to truly be freed are cowardice, betrayal, and incompetence? Add your voice to the total liberation of Africa by leaving a comment in the comments section below. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos like this one. Let's proceed. Captain Ibrahim Traore reportedly said, "Let me tell you that in order for us to come together, we need to eradicate three words, that is, three main vices, from our actions and our lives. I refer to ineptitude, treachery, and cowardice." Traore's demand to eradicate fear, treachery, and ineptitude is a potent critique of the exact characteristics that have impeded Africa's development and kept the continent bound by its colonial past. Recognizing the role each of these vices has had in upholding the status quo is essential to comprehending Traore's vision of an Africa freed from injustice. Being cowardly is more than just a character flaw, but a structural problem that has made it possible for outside forces to keep control of the continent. It stands for a lack of courage to oppose repressive governments, a fear of losing privileges or authority, and a preference for security above sovereignty. The West has been using cowardice as a weapon for generations to make African governments submit to foreign demands rather than take a chance on conflict. Traore's appeal for a new generation of leaders is seen as concentration on eliminating cowardice. Leaders with the guts to take on external exploitation as well as domestic corruption. On the other hand, betrayal is a deeply rooted issue that has afflicted Africa ever since the slave trade. It is the act of betraying one's fellow citizens for one's own benefit, frequently at the request of foreign powers. Movements for independence and self-determination have been undermined by betrayal. This vice has consistently hindered Africa's search for strength and unity, whether it is through the betrayal of the public trust by those in authority or the betrayal of revolutionary leaders by their closest allies. Traore's appeal to end betrayal is an appeal for morality and unity, imploring Africans to put the good of the group ahead of their own interests. Among the three vices, incompetence is arguably the most prevalent. It involves more than just a lack of education or experience. Rather, it involves a calculated West African policy of dependency. Foreign aid programs that promote dependency over self-sufficiency, undervalue local knowledge in educational systems, and encourage compliance over competence in governance structures, have all contributed to the growth of incompetence. By emphasizing the need to eradicate ineptitude, Traore is calling for a new generation of African leaders who are capable, educated, and devoted to serving the needs of the people rather than those of outside sponsors. In addition to pointing out the issues, Traore is outlining a vision for a new, independent, powerful Africa by advocating for the eradication of cowardice, treachery, and ineptitude. But how has this audacious new vision been received in the West? Traore's audacious remarks have prompted a prompt and significant response from the Western world. He has been dubbed an extremist, a firebrand, and even a possible dictator by Western media outlets. This reflexive response is expected from a system that has long used the story of African dependence and incapacity to defend its ongoing meddling on the continent. Why is the West so afraid of Traore's words? Because he poses a direct threat to the meticulously planned neo-colonialist system that has made Africa permanently dependent on other people. Western nations have employed political scheming, economic pressure, and military action to keep their sway over countries in Africa. It is a declaration of war against this neo-colonial order that Traore is calling for a departure from this system. His refusal to back down in the face of threats from the West portends a more assertive Africa that values reciprocity and respect over charity and condescension. Traore's leadership and everything he stands for are not the only things that the West fears. The potential for an independent, unified Africa that is unwilling to follow the laws established in Washington, London, or Paris. The political and economic interests that Western countries have painstakingly built over the years are directly challenged by this. If additional African politicians take up Traore's position, the foundation of Western dominance on the region may start to fall apart. Additionally, the hypocrisy of Western countries who support corrupt regimes and tyrants that further their own agendas while denouncing democracy and human rights is made clear by Traore's leadership. His actions highlight the hypocrisy that has long been a feature of Western policy toward Africa, where resource access takes precedence over human rights and stability is favored above democracy. In addition to unsettling Western nations, Traore's resistance has sparked a fresh wave of Pan-Africanism throughout the continent. A re-evaluation of what African governance can and should look like is being sparked by his leadership. However, what does Traore's leadership portend for Africa's future? With Traore at the helm, African politics are witnessing a seismic change that may completely alter the course of the continent. His strategy is predicated on a straightforward but effective idea. Africa needs to be free in all spheres: political, economic, cultural, and psychological. His leadership is so revolutionary because of this all-encompassing vision of freedom. Traore is aware that the absence of foreign forces is not enough to achieve full independence. It necessitates a radical rethinking of the colonial mentality that has long pervaded Africa. Other African leaders face a challenge from Traore's leadership. It poses an important query. Will they carry on with the foreign powers game? Or will they follow Traore's lead and create a fresh route towards genuine sovereignty? Not only is his demand for an end to cowardice, treachery, and ineptitude, but it also serves as an invitation, an appeal for bold, capable, and unwavering African leadership that is dedicated to the people's needs. In addition, this leadership vision aims to forge a new form of African unity. Traore's focus on honesty and skill might open the door for fresh African collaboration.